I was lucky enough to be raised in nature. This is a gift I could not be more grateful for, a gift I wish to preserve for others. For me, there is no place I feel more at home than the shores of Buzzards Bay. This beautiful, yet somewhat unknown place I call home lies in southeastern Massachusetts by historic New Bedford, where my family comes from. As it was also the home of Herman Melville, my family has always had a particular love for Moby Dick. Its descriptions of life in the area communicate what this breathtaking place brings to its locals. He remarks, "I am tormented with an everlasting itch for things remote. I love to sail the forbidden seas." The importance of nature cannot be understated. The areas of nature you spend time in become so personal and beloved. Everyone deserves to have access to a place like that, and that's why it's so critical for people to protect their local environments, especially as it's locals who know the issues best. My family has lived by the shore for 75 years. That connection has given our generations more insight into this land than anyone else could. We have seen firsthand the human impact here, the way the land has changed over the decades. It becomes impossible to ignore the climate crisis when you can witness it unfold. There are people who deny the oceans are rising, but for coastal locals, it's something they can observe. Just in my 20-year lifetime, I've seen the water level change here. When I was a child, we used to have campfires on this beach every night, but now the water line is much higher. There's no space for fire at night anymore. Here's where we dock kayaks. You can see this anchor positioned here and a landing where the kayaks could fit. In the summer, we used to put them there down by the water, but now the water gets far too high. We have to put them way far up, back on the grass, reaching into the field. And if you look back a generation, my dad's description of the changes over 60 years are much more dramatic. This rock wall was built as hurricane protection. This was meant to be the last line of defense in the most extreme of weather conditions. Now, it doesn't even take a storm to get water past this wall. You can see the areas of grass where shells have been washed up. My grandfather built this house in the 1950s without any worry it was too close to the water. Now, during storms, the water will seep all the way across this field up to the house. It's not even legal to have a house this close to the shore anymore. It's grandfathered in. The water clarity has also diminished. My dad says when he was a child, the water was crystal clear, that you could hunt for clams in the sand without putting your head under. Now, in the summer, you can hardly see your own feet in the water. The bay also has a special property, phosphorescent plankton. The water at night looks black, but when you move, the microorganisms glow blue. This highly visible level of bioluminescence is uncommon for Massachusetts. This concentrated amount of phosphorescence indicates an unbalanced ecosystem. And we've observed that. We've seen the disappearance of species from the bay. When my dad was younger, he and my grandfather used to catch so much lobster that they'd grow sick of eating it in the summer. They'd have it every night. And now, there aren't even lobster pots in the bay anymore. There's no use. The water is too warm now. All the lobsters have had to leave the bay. I've noticed the same thing to some extent in my lifetime with crabs. I used to spend a lot of time catching crabs with my cousins, and I have noticed it has become much more difficult as there are much fewer crabs. It used to be you could turn over a stone and a dozen would come scurrying out. Now that hardly ever happens. Beyond the water, there's the marsh and the coastline. These areas also suffer a loss of biodiversity, destabilizing the ecosystem. For instance, ospreys have become far less common. Their population was threatened. We, the people of the community, took this into our own hands, as we had the access, the knowledge, and the passion for the area. We built osprey nests in the marsh to provide a safe hatching environment, and we've had ospreys every year since. While I desperately want to protect the place that I love, and people can help me by donating to Buzzards Bay Coalition, what I'm really asking for is for people to protect the places that they love, the places that you hold fond memories, the places you go to escape to be in nature, the places that have brought you joy. Because if the locals who love an area do not protect it, then who will? Who else knows the area? Buzzards Bay is not a national park or a tourist site. It only has the locals who care for it. If there's an area that has meant a lot to you, Look for local conservation organizations and support them. You might be surprised how many others care for an area the way you do. Research your human impacts. From things like fertilizers to water consumption, you don't know how your town could be impacting the nature that you love. And after all nature gives to us, we, at the very least, can try to protect it.